Right, so I don't know whether it's the next level or not, but today's session is on those topics which I think we have ignored while we are developing for the last 2 years. Basically, what we are doing during this time period was just we developed some piece of code, okay, and we just kept on copying it over and over again. So, just even as we progress through a lot of projects, like each time we wanted to implement some sort of enhancement there so that we could actually code better, means the application would run faster. So, AngularJS has improvised from this being simple data binding and routing to much more of a more powerful framework in the recent years, recent time. And what has happened was all those people who once developed plugins just for jQuery simply switched over to AngularJS, and AngularJS is right now so much powerful. Only thing we need to do is to leverage the properties, whatever they provide, in a better way so as to achieve good code, good running code, performance. So let's start with it. So as I was saying, the problem with whatever we are doing right now, I just pointed out. So it is something like we are just simply copying and reusing code. So what happens is we just create a project, we deem it to be perfect, which means we have some code which is running. We never check whether that is perfect or not. Simply when the next project comes in, we copy this and go for a new one without ever having to check on whether something has improvised or not. So that's one problem with us. And applying enhanced features. So each time when Angular gives a new build, right, they will be giving something new, which means some new features, new directives, and improvisation of the previous components that they develop. So we should be focusing on those things too. Simply having Angular and Bootstrap is not the final word in application development. And what we should be giving importance to is performance analysis, which we do up to a point, but we haven't done it completely, which we need to give importance. So performance analysis is in the terms like once the development is over, when it goes to a production server, we need to make sure that that thing works perfectly, no bottlenecks, nothing. So that needs to be addressed. And unit testing, last of all. I believe that we don't write too much of unit tests using Karma or Jasmine or for that matter. So that's the thing. That's are the basic things that we need to take care when you are going for enhancing an AngularJS application. Okay, so this is what happens in most of the projects that we have. Just simply, this is what our client demands. Next one. This is what we do. Right. So this is happening every day. So just it's trying to make it better. Okay. Did you understand something? Anybody? AngularJS developers. So anybody? AngularJS developers? So what did you understand? Yeah. So did you understand that? Which you interpreted?
Tutor binding is evil.
Yes.
Easy equal to.
By the way, this is and that is two-way binding. Okay, that you regularly use in your code. Right? Got it, right? So usually when you develop your images application, in order to display something that's two-way binding, we use this double braces, curly braces. So this is your root cause of error. So why? So this is the way you use it, right? So if you want to display something, you will be using it inside a label and curly braces. Inside this you will declare an angular variable. So the problem with this is that usually each time when dirty checking happens, it checks whether this variable has changed. Each time it refreshes. So that's going to be a problem. So each time when it refreshes, the browser has an additional load of actually rewriting every binding variable that happens to be in scope. So that's a core of job or overhead for the AngularJS that's running inside the browser. And do understand that this whole div has to be maintained by Angular, not just the variable. So it keeps on checking whether this div has changed. So it keeps it in memory, and each time it changes, it has to refresh the whole thing. Obviously, more memory consumption, and hence it's slower. And I promise, whatever Angular projects we have taken up so far, this will be the case. So the answer is ng bind. Have you heard about this? Yes. So what does it do? Everything is clean, that's it. So instead of using that, simply use ng bind. So what it does is just director, give whatever you want to display inside the ng bind directive, and what happens is it doesn't get involved in the rechecking cycles. It doesn't keep on refreshing until each digest cycle happens. So it's much faster, less memory consumption. It's better. So that's what I found from this is what quote I found from Stack Overflow, and I searched about this thing. So this guy is saying like he has something like 500 bindings per view. So which when he changed to ng bind, it saved like 30% in his popular digest. So that's going to improve it in our case too. Right. So the next is NGSRC. So many of you guys know. So instead of using NGSRC, easily use an image and binding that scope variable, which is the URL of that image inside this curly braces and letting the HTML do its job. What happens is the image will load. It will load only when the image arrives, and it is not bound to an AngularJS code. It's like when the image changes, you will have an issue refreshing the images. So normally the image won't change. But once you load an image, once you load a user profile, it's not supposed to change. It will stay as such. But when it comes to a situation where we have the changes, something like you are uploading an image, right? And you are selecting the image from your file system, and immediately shows a preview. You load an image again. You don't want that image. You reject it. You load an image again. So this has to change. There we will experience this problem. Right? Explore this. Simply go for NGSRC. It's an Angular directive. That's how it works, and that will help you overcome this problem. So every value is bound to the Angular scope.
Right.
Yeah.
For double braces with ng bind,
Yes.
is there any reason why we have to use double braces, or can we actually replicate double braces and using ng bind? Is there any use case where double braces has to be, or is it just a redundant? Which is
I think it's redundant, but I think so. Most of the time when I was checking through Stack Overflow, the more I checked, they were just endorsing the usage of ng bind wherever I found
my
it.
question is there any specific reason why both exist in parallel? Is there any specific reason? Anyway, we'll check that.
I'll check that out. Even then, they were telling like filters. So when I checked into the Stack Overflow did. So they were telling about filters where we usually translate. So when we use a translate filter, we will be translating one language into another. So at that time we were using this filter inside this curly braces, the binding. So they still say even that is lower. You can use for translating something like NG translate in order to do this, which will be much faster. Right, and this one is about resource. So when we were working with most of the projects, we were using services. Right. So service is something that eventually happens to be the broker between the API and the control group. Right. So the service actually talks to the API, brings back your data in JSON format and just delivers it to the control. So until now we were using HTTP. There is no issues with HTTP. So that the one problem with HTTP is it simply clutters output. So you need to write promises in order to actually satisfy whatever criteria is there. But instead of that, I found that most of the projects were using dollar resource for this matter. So dollar resource are actually not something like you can call a specific. You can still call a specific function, but it is more related to code. So when you want to do a code operation on an entity, dollar resource is the best choice. Because by default, I think it has some. I haven't put all them here, but it does have facilities for get, post, and all those sort of things. Yeah. So basically, dollar resource is two levels of abstraction above dollar HTTP, right? It also includes an HTTP interceptor, which happens to be the basic way for actually capturing and analyzing HTTP requests and responses. So when you usually do an HTTP AJAX call, you will have to write an extra HTTP interceptor in order to catch these requests or responses in order to process them. So usually why we do this is when the application gets a 404 or some sort of error message, you want to display something like if the token expired, you want the application to be logged out. Okay, those sort of things are actually done with the help of HTTP interceptor. The resource Angular component or directory actually includes this inside. Right, so that when you configure the resource, you can still specify the HTTP interceptor along with it. So one advantage I found is that it happens to produce less cluttered code. More options are present inside dollar resource instead of dollar HTTP. You don't have to worry about promises inside the dollar resource. You can let the controller do it. So when we are actually working with most of the projects, it was like dollar HTTP, that is a service having a promise, and again another promise will be done inside the controller. So that's two promises. We don't actually need that. We just need an API code. We just need to handle the promise. That's it done. So using dollar resource will help you do this. So as I told earlier, more suited application is a real proved scenario, which you think of something like a user that you need to do a get, a post, or an update or a delete. Dollar resource actually by construction itself, you can provide all these things. Like if you check the documentation and put it here, that is much more easier when using dollar resource than provide HTTP, where you have to write all the configuration. Right? Next one. And yeah, there are no more directives and things I have to tell about. During the time I haven't been able to put all these things inside this lab. But another advanced thing that you would need to do is to be using dollar. So I am normally seeing people actually using directly downloading the JS from whichever kind of hosting site we have, putting it inside your directory project folder and using it. So that doesn't work always, because once when you have an upgrade of that JS, you need to manually download it again and put it inside again. That's not going to work for all stages of the project. And the next problem is that once you download a JS and put it inside your code, wherever you commit the code, the JS goes along with it, right? So, including buffer helps reduce that. You need to just include a buffer.json, a package JSON kind of file inside your project structure, so that all the dependencies which you have used will be listed in that. So when a new developer sets up code, you don't have to carry over the whole JS again and again. Just like when you use mail or something, you can simply use buffer and buffer's file, setup file in order to re-download all the dependencies and get the project running. And again, one advantage of buffer is that you can automatically download a new version of whatever dependencies you have. Right. So we have actually started buffer with most of the projects that we are having now. Right. And yes, Yeoman. So some of the people here are actually having a first-hand taste of Yeoman right now. So Yeoman is actually kind of a scaffolding tool which actually happens to generate code, boilerplate code, without having us to go out and do everything. So when you want an Angular application, you can simply use their own generator, say to them, say that I want this view, I want this service, I want this control. It will automatically generate all these things for you. Right. So another advantage of using Yeoman is that it happens to have all those things I mentioned, like unit testing and the comma unit test, JS lint, which happens with the code style checker, everything included in this, so that you don't have to worry about this. Even if you miss out a semicolon, if you miss out a syntax, you just create a syntax error. This generator, there is an included run server which will actually check all these things and let you know that this has gone wrong. So you don't have to worry about code checking syntax errors later in the code. Right. Thanks for watching this. I will be continuing it in